Hey guys, Duncan Nichols here, and needless to say, welcome to a new series review here on this channel. And needless to say, I already watched it through my reactions on this particular season of BFDI. And in this case, we're going to talk about the 6th season of BFDI, that is Battle for Dream Island Elsewhere, which came out on January 1st, 2026, 16 years after BFDI started, and ended on March 13th with some alternate endings being released a week later, wrapping up the series. And needless to say, this season has a lot of development though. It returned to the old art style that BFDI, BFDIE, IFB uses. It has an interesting cast of some sorts, from David to 2 BFDI mini contestants, and some interesting characters, such as a character that is named somehow after Nichols' hated nickname. And not only that, but the overall development of the season is pretty hilarious. Like, see, those memorable scenes, like, But with that matter, we're going to talk about how I have to say we're going into this season of BFDI in particular. And, this is going to be interesting. So sit back, relax, and prepare for some little development though, because today I'll be reviewing Battle for Dream Island Elsewhere, starting right now. So, where to start? So, let's talk about the whole information thing, of course, as we know it. BFDIE, or as we know as Battle for Dream Island Elsewhere, is the Australian-American 6th season of the Battle for Dream Island series, a mid-core of the 1st season, Battle for Dream Island. It premiered on January 1st, 2026, 16 years since the first BFDI episode debuted, with the release of Elsewhere on Earth, and release episodes weekly on Thursdays in the Pacific Standard Time, except for the season finale, Escape Nightmare Island, which released 2 weeks in a day after the previous episode on March 13th, 2026. After the release of the alternate endings of the season finale a week later on March 20th, jacknjellify announced that the production of the season, of which Sam Thornberry, an Australian, and Florence Chappelle were behind the production, was wrapped. This season takes place during the events of Battle for Dream Island, when the announcers sneak out to host another show. Hence, it features the art style from the earlier seasons of BFDI. It features 12 contestants competing in challenges, with the last contestant to complete the challenge being eliminated. Now that's a twist, right? The winner would receive a horrifying wasteland resembling Dream Island called Nightmare Island, and gets to decide who is trapped on it and who isn't. Now, before the release of this season, there are many references on hints on what a potential 6th season of the show would entail. Kerry Wang planned through its reaction on BFB 20 that season 6 is planned to return to the old art style the previous season's use, of which this season does return to that art style. On February 20th, 2021, it was confirmed in unboxing 3 Super Play Buttons video that if the vote count on BFB 30, which is 6 digits, there will be a 6th season of BFDI on the jacknjellify channel at some point in the future. And 2 days later, though, Kerry confirmed that the vote count for BFB 30 was 91,424. Therefore, season 6 was not confirmed. However, the post also read, looks like that 100k threshold will be Teapot's zone to break, giving the possibility of a 6th season, as Teapot has had many of its vote count totals reach over 100k. And after the release of BFDIA 6 were rested, he also gained 269,548 votes, which is over the 100,000 vote goal. However, no announcements or news about the release of Season 6 has made since. This could have been due to BFDIA and Teapot being produced simultaneously, but Elsewhere has started while both of these seasons are still currently ongoing though. Category 1 did break the 100,000 vote target, occurring 347,246 votes in total. Even if individual voters were counted, though, to make it 115,782 votes, still more than enough to surpass the 100,000 threshold. On July 24th, 2025, during a stream on Flipper Clips' YouTube channel starring Michael Wang, a stream commentator asked about 5 minutes into what Season 6's actual title might be. Michael said it was a secret and that viewers may find out pretty soon. This was the first ever direct confirmation that the 6th season was at least in development. According to showrunner Florence Chappelle, the season had finalized its cast in September 2025. From there, jacknjellify teased a new season by doing a live stream of all BFDI episodes by late December, leading to January 1st, 2026, with the release of the 100th episode of the series, of which it was revealed to be a new season that we know it today. And this is where we're going to start here. So I'm going to read a little summarized description of all the episodes, and I'm going to share my thoughts right after. So let's get started. Elsewhere on Earth. While hosting the first season of Battle for Dream Island, they announced to secretly start another season Elsewhere on Earth, hence the name, with David and 11 new contestants. Beach Ball, a former BFDI mini contestant, Fern, Hot Dog, Jamie, Money, Needy, not to be confused with Needles, this is a hated nickname, Rose, same as Beach Ball, Ruler, Sidewalkie, Sticker, and Toothpaste. The season's prize is Nightmare Island, the Apollo opposite version of Dream Island, and the winner gets to decide will we trap on the island. No teams are formed, meaning that contestants must compete by themselves. The first challenge is for each contestant to get to the top of their designated pole. The contestants use various techniques such as changing poles and using trampolines, and due to deciding to stick with his pole despite there being many spikes and sauce on it, Hot Dog is immediately eliminated after losing the challenge. The viewers are then asked to vote for their favorite contestant in the game, which is said to be important later as the season progresses. This request would eventually be used in subsequent episodes. The episode, though, gives us a little hint of what's going on here. So, Nightmare Island already is it's very a bad version of Dream Island, of course, but we know it. And the way the contestants do their techniques and challenges, okay, though, like trampolines, which is of course cheating, but I think that has over the announcers, rules. For some reason, like the announcer didn't notice that they were cheating for some reason. Also, there were some major events between some contestants, like there were some couple of development between some of the contestants here, like Fern and Toothpaste. Or I can remember they decided to make a enemy part. Of course, this is where we start here. And needs to say that this episode was okay though, but Hot Dog's elimination was, because he couldn't not able to finish the challenge because of too many spikes and sauce. So, the episode is very nice, a very interesting introduction, but but at least it's gonna be terrifying from here. So, episode 1, A-. The bare minimum. The second challenge is to collect as many poles as possible within 10 minutes and put it in each contestant's assorted container. Sticker and Rose cheat through painting the balls to collect gold, which are worth 98 points each as opposed to 1, bringing both of their scores into the thousands. Money and Needy decides to only do the bare minimum and make sure they both stay in the game, which backfires when they have no balls left towards the end of the challenge. One last chance to earn a single ball is given when Jamie dies after having Ruler stuff numerous balls inside of her. Just as the ball is guaranteed to land and Money's container, Needy decides to move her container over, so the ball lands on it, eliminating Money off the competition. So, the challenge is, okay, just collect a couple balls, and the way Sticker and Rose cheat is hilarious for some reason. How did they have to paint the balls gold? Even though there were some gold balls around, they cheated, so, Also, Ruler eating Jamie a couple balls which led to her death. This is weird for some reason. I don't know what's going on, but Ruler is having a little development though, because why did you stuff on such a contestant like this? Odd. But the challenge is okay though. Needless to say, B tier. Nothing else to add here, except that the challenge development is still alright though. We still have a development on the other contestants. Next up is Everyone's Enemies. The third challenge is divided into 2 parts. The first part is to jump off a cliff to retrieve a necklace. No one receives it. Needy finds another necklace, and Sidewalkie turns the announcer, giving the two immediately immunity and temporary involvement in the second part, of which it is a tournament similar to that of BFDI 18, Reveal No Room, in which contestants randomly picked by the wheel must fight each other, with the winner receiving immunity, and the loser will stay in the running until one remains standing. The immune contestants are allowed to help or hurt any of the contestants in the tournament, but until announcer changes the rules due to James' criticism of Sidewalkie's interference. Many rivalries are formed throughout the challenge, such as Rose and Beach Ball, Toothpaste and Sticker, and Jamie and Ruler. Beach Ball is eliminated, losing to Sticker because of a broken yellow face product. Like, how do you do that? But anyways, the weirdest part of this challenge is, the fighting part. Of course, the contestants have to fight against each other, of course. But, of course, we know it. The way that Sticker and Beach Ball fought was interesting, though. Like, how did you have to do that? And also, using Needy to pop Beach Ball, from what I can remember. But at least this challenge has a couple of things, But at least this is interesting, though. So, this one is alright though, but still it was good to see them. But Beach Ball getting out, B tier. Insectophobe vs Nightmare 0. Yes, Insectophobe Nightmare is 0. Just 0. The fourth challenge is a snowball fight. Whoever gets it first is eliminated. Rose is rejected from her alliance with Sticker and opts to use a flamethrower to melt snowballs and defend herself. Jamie and Fern teamed up for the challenge to take her down. The two are chased into a cave and encounter ice box that kill Fern. The box then follows Rose and Jamie out of the cave and then turn into ice cubes upon touching frozen water. Afterwards, Rose goes back to chasing Jem. Afterward, Rose goes back to chasing Jamie. Just as she is about to eliminate Jamie, Sidewalkie and Ruler stop her and use a newly thawed bug to freeze her solid. Fern, having just been recovered, finishes off Rose and eliminates her by throwing a snowball at her. And it was hilarious. First of all, you know, the way that the bugs out, and some reason some of the contestants were frozen. It's because of that challenge. This is odd, to be honest. And also, being a snowball fight is something like that. But interesting to see those characters coming around. So, at least there was something. But this challenge is hilarious, though. Especially at how Sidewalkie, Ruler, and, you know, the others had to stop, you know, the contestants, of course. But Fern being recovered is a final finish, which is nice. And, yeah, it needs to say that. Oh, and Toothpaste being frozen for some reason. Okay, B+. The three-legged race. That's a mouthful. The fifth challenge is a three-legged race. The contestants are split into 4 pairs. Team Dandelion, which is composed of Jamie and Sticker. Team Vermilion, composed of Ruler and Toothpaste. Team Azure, David and Fern. And Needy and Sidewalkie from Team Death. Each team has to have both of their members to get to the finish while doing 3 challenges, all while being tied together. The first challenge is to apply 500 steps, a concept similar to the challenge in BFDI Sands Button. The second is to collect a gem of a contestant's team the collar in a cave, and the third is to cross lava on platforms. At the last moment, Sticker, who is with Jamie in the last place, strictly switches with David, resulting in David and Jamie's eliminations. Why did you do that? So, you know, the challenge is okay though. Like, doing, you know, the usual stuff, of course, but their bond seems to have a little development though, especially with Needy and Sidewalkie. He got hurt for some reason. Thanks a lot, Sidewalkie. Also, the overall development between some of the contestants were Fern and David are having a little weird development, so did Jamie and Sticker. But Ruler and Toothpaste did alright. That was for the most part. But the weirdest part with Sticker is where he switched up with David for some reason, which is odd. How did he cheat that? So, that was crazy. So, this episode gets a B tier. Nothing else to say, but this was hilarious. The exploding loser chamber. The tinier loser chamber was destroyed after becoming too overloaded with the eliminated contestants. The announcer sees this as an opportunity to do a rejoin challenge. All 12 contestants are split into 6 pairs, each with 1 eliminated contestant and 1 that's still in the running. The challenge is a game of hot potato with a chess, and whichever team has a chess after 10 minutes, one of its members switch their status in the competition. Now, during the challenge, Linnea has an outburst which makes her decide to stop being apathetic. Okay, and in the end, Bonnie and Ruler have the chess, so their status has been swapped, resulting in the former's rejoin and the latter's elimination. A tinier loser chamber, though, is then replaced by the much larger, yet wider, Titanic loser chamber. Okay, so the part where the tiny loser chamber breaks is overcrowded. So, yeah, and also the challenge of hot potato is, of course, interesting, though. And seeing the contestants doing having some bonds with the eliminated contestants are well, interesting though. But Needy having an outburst is odd, so needs to say. And also it's so interesting to have money back in the game, but I think their replacement would have a little development though, but these are something. Also, Titanic Loser Chamber, that was huge and really hilarious. Like for some reason, why did you have to make it a larger yet wider TLC, which made the contestants go further? Like what the heck? It just stands the contestants even further. Like what the hell is that? So this episode was hilarious, which I made sense thanks to the Titanic Loser Chamber. So A-. 100 shells, no more, no less. The remaining contestants are awarded with a yacht trip for getting to the halfway point, but because of budget cuts, of course, the yacht disappears. The announcer promises to bring the yacht back once they do the next challenge, which is to retrieve a designated item from the lake and bring it to the announcer. Toothpaste in particular is tasked with collecting exactly 100 shells, which automatically return to the lake should she have the wrong amount. When the last part for immunity comes down between Fern and Toothpaste, the horn secretly sabotages the latter, reducing the shell count to 99, resulting in Toothpaste's elimination. Contrary to his promise, though, the announcer gets a hot air balloon, which disappears for the same reason as the yacht. Really. So, you know, the way contestants decide to get their needs, of course, you can, of course. So, what I can tell, Sticker, of course, from having a little development, though, some of the contestants, though, like, first of all, getting stuff like hot dog, a dead body of hot dog for some reason, and a boat, and something like that. This is odd. So, needless to say, this is going to be interesting. Also, the way that Fern sabotaged Toothpaste is not so great, because she thinks that Toothpaste was her enemy. So, yeah. So, Toothpaste's elimination was, you know, also budget cuts in this episode. Nothing else to say. A-. Some assembly required. The announcer gives the remaining contestants their own speaker boxes, only to immediately destroy them, and declares that the challenge for each contestant to repair their speaker box, but the last one to do so getting eliminated. Sticker disguises Fern as a speaker box, has their own, and becomes safe, but upon seeing that Fern has seen through the deception and submitting his faith, a regretful Sticker makes this up for him by substituting Needy's speaker box for Fern's, rendering him safe as well. The other contestants fight over which speaker box should be fixed next, though ultimately Needy loses and is eliminated. It is then revealed that the epilogue that the other eliminated contestants also have speaker boxes of their own, which were destroyed as well. So, you know, this episode was a lot. Like, for some reason. First of all, the contestants have their own speaker boxes, which is interesting. But the announcer decided to give it a effing stuff and decided to destroy it anyway, which shocked the contestants. And needless to say, their way of repairing is weird, though. For some, of course, we know that Sticker decides to cheat with and decide to make for the speaker box his own for some reason, and which is also the same thing that, you know, substituting the speaker box for Ferns, which is odd. And the way that the contestants like to fight over whoever gets to repair the speaker box is weird, which makes Needy getting out. So that was something. Also, a lot of contestants, of course, have their own speaker boxes, right? Mostly, but yeah. B+ for this episode. You know, the root of all evil. The challenge is a combination of the previous 8 challenges. The contestants are given points based on their performance, with the lowest scoring contestant getting eliminated. Fern calls out the announcer for never taking action against Sticker's cheating, and the announcer promises to keep an eye on Sticker to the latter's chagrin. As the challenge progresses, Bonnie's increasing hostility leads to the other contestants, including the sidewalk, to gang up on her. Yes, of course, an alliance. When the challenge ends in a tie between Sidewalkie and Money in the bottom 2, the former wins the literal tiebreaker and the latter is eliminated, leading Sidewalkie to the final 3, which consists of him, Fern, and Sticker. Now, that episode is wild. Completing the previous 8 challenges in the weird way possible, and of course, you know, but at least there's something, you know. But, yeah, the way that the final 3, you know, Sticker, Fern, and Sidewalkie collaborated to get Money out is nice, like, to be honest. And nice job, too. So, at least there was something. But at least this episode is a preparation for the final challenge that we were gonna get to it. So, B tier. And finally, escape Nightmare Island. The final 3 contestants are forced into Nightmare Island, where their final challenge is to navigate the island's hotel and then jump across a cliff. The eliminated contestants get on to vote on who will get an advantage, with Fern receiving the majority. Fern's advantage is to skip the penultimate leg of the challenge, which is eating and poison food. Ugh. Unless if you're going to spin the wheel, of course, and get that 100 chicken nuggets, I think, hold on, I never read that, but anyways, let's move on now, and let's go to the part where we are going to know our winner. Sticker and Fern began to argue when they reached the cliff, and Sidewalkie pushes them off and takes the leap. But just as Sidewalkie is about to make it to the other side of the cliff, a burst water pipe propels Fern ahead of him, making Fern the season's winner. Although he intended to not let anyone remain on the island, Toothpaste intervenes and shuts the gate on Money, trapping her. The announcer reveals that the votes determine the season's winner before returning to the first season's contest grounds with David and Pursuit. Now, before I can say my thoughts to that episode, there were two alternate endings similar to that of Total Drama, but these are the first time an alternate ending was occurred in BFDI history. Sticker's ending started with the point where he and Fern argued. Sidewalkie pushes them off and takes the lead. Then a burst water pipe propels Sticker ahead of him, making Sticker winning the season. He then trapped Money, Sidewalkie, and toothpaste inside. For Sidewalkie's part, goes on as usual, but there wasn't any water pipe boosted, so Sticker and Fern fell, and Sidewalkie won the challenge. He then begged David to stay outside of the island. So, yeah, having alternate endings in seasons as such has never been heard until now. At least if we had to count that, if we not have to count the deleted scene in BFDI 1A, that's also serves as an alternate ending. So anyways, with that mattered, this episode was a decent season finale, of course. We know that the contestants had to go around and go on to accomplish, to get to the other side of the cliff, So, as you can tell, as we know about that, they decided to go to the Silver Star Hotel and then blah 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 blah, and other stuff. But yeah, and the way that Sticker and Fern argued is, since they broke out the alliance that made out the previous episode, though, so they only had to need one chance to win. So that's basically the point. But Sidewalkie pushing them, and that thing that Sidewalkie did, that leads up to the most interesting season winner yet. That is Fern. But, we got alternate endings now, so maybe we should have Sticker and Sidewalkie winning theirs as well. If there are alternate endings for canon, though. But, but at least this episode has a lot to tell, and the way Toothpaste decided to start making amends on Fern, which is still not fair, because Money is now her enemy, for some reason. Which led to Money getting trapped on Nightmare Island alone. So, and also, the epilogue is where Announcer is now back at the grounds, and Eraser somehow questioned the Announcer, where did he go? This would mean that the show took place before Eraser's elimination. Possibly. But at least this episode is a great send-off, at least. The alternate endings made it more interesting, though, but at least there's something. So, this season finale gets an A-. Yeah. Hey there, thanks for making it so far into this video. Now before I should continue, I'm gonna pause for a moment. Now, yeah, by subscribing to this channel, you'll give me more support than right now, because the way you subscribe to this channel, the support that you give to me will be important to my future, of course. I'm currently recovering from the passing of my paternal grandfather, and I just want to get myself back into relevancy now. So if you wanted to continue to support myself as you usually do, then please like this video, comment if you have any suggestions what should I do next, subscribe to this channel, and also to my Eurovision channel where I do Eurovision content, and hit that bell and set it to all, so where you're going to get all notifications when a new sort of videos pops up. And this is you can also check out my socials in my link tree linked, and this channel's homepage as well, where you can also find all my other socials. Now with that matter, let's get you back into this video. Now to be fair, this season is alright though for the most part. The challenges were good in the most part, especially some of them were still hilarious, some of them were alright, some of them were straight up taken from previous episodes, and I just found out that there was actually a button in the stairs, and wherever it was pushed, the contestant must go down instead of teleporting them in BFB 11, so I just realized that. But anyways, that mattered. Well, let's just explain what really happened. So this season is basically what it is, as I just said. It is alright though, especially for the most part. The bonds that are created by the characters have made more sense, especially with Fern and Toothpaste's, quote-unquote heated rivalry. What did I say? But anyways, that turned to an interesting friendship now that somehow still have some grudges after Toothpaste decided to trap Money and Fern's ending. But but also there were some major developments between some of the characters. Like, first of all, having a character named after Needles' most hated nickname is so interesting, because we had to see Needy being, just a regular guy, a girl or something like that. But for some reason, they're apathetic. But eventually they decided to break out of that, and they're now acting really normal as usual. But thankfully for them, well, they decided to accept that they don't want to call Needle like that, the opposite of like that. Instead of slapping, they just said don't call that, which is a very simple way and not so bad way, unlike Needle, which But anyways, a couple of weird moments in that episode and most of the season came around. Like for a couple of weird moments, such as David being reckless around. Of course, had the ultimate all seriously thing, and also way the contestants got eliminated was from Hot Dog being repeatedly being killed by a couple of Sauce and Spikes, of course, from Monty's first elimination to blah 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 everything else, and there were a couple of weird stuff, including the Titanic Lucifer Chamber and budget cuts. But at least this season has a lot of full expectations, at least. But at least it produced a more decently yet interesting winner, though, and it produced 2 interesting alternate endings that we haven't even seen in BFDI history. At least this season has a lot of full potential, which at least it's still great, but not so tense as the previous seasons, of course. But at least it's a very small yet very alright season, though. At least there was a couple of things that I might say about it. So this 6th season of BFDI is, I might say, my least favorite out of the bunch, even though it's still good for the most part. So for BFDIE, B+. Even though that it's way less than the other seasons, though, I still have to give it a lot. But this season's still alright, though, for the most part. But I'm still good with what I have said with this season, even though I prefer the prior seasons better. So with that matter, that's it for my review on Battle for Dreamland and elsewhere. Well, at least I was able to watch all the episodes by reacting to them, which you can check it out by the last 6 reactions on this channel, with my first part is yet to be repurposed, though. I used to have those on my old channel, but I decided to private them, but I'm gonna repurpose them real soon. But don't worry about that. I have some plans for that. But anyways, with that mattered, let's just say I have a couple of things planned once I finish production on this video. So so that season being elsewhere, of course, is basically what it is. But I have a couple of shows that I have to review for this channel, of course. I am currently getting my binge watch track, of course. As of right now, I'm currently in the middle of finishing watching High Potential Season 2, of which I'm planning a review for that. Hopefully, I should finish it by the end of April, some sorts. I'm also planning to watch all of Daredevil Born Again, starting with binge watching Season 1, then going through Season 2, which that's what I'm doing as of right now. Also, I might plan to watch some other stuff, of course. Maybe Wonder Man or Wizards of Waverly Place some sorts, because for the latter, it will be interesting to have the show celebrating its 20th year, and I might plan for some trilogy of that I might gonna do, and Wizards of Waverly Place related video. I'm talking about that show, the 2 movies, some sort, and Beyond Waverly Place, but hopefully. But of course, there are some other contents that I have planned, such as video essays, of course. I'm planning my next video essay. Right now, I'm still in the middle of scripting and finding some footage. Of course, with new information just came around, so I'm gonna update that. Of course, I haven't been started production on that video, and I haven't started recording yet, which is fair, but it is what it is. So there was a couple of videos that I have planned for the next couple of weeks, as soon as my literature workshop time is currently ongoing as of the time I'm recording this video. So with that matter, that's it for this video that you're watching right now. That is me reviewing BFDI season that's elsewhere, hence the name, Battle for Dreamland and elsewhere. Please like this video, comment if you have any suggestions what should I do next, subscribe to Duncan Nichols and to my Eurovision channel, ESCDN, and hit the bell. And you can also have an option to set it to all, of course, where you can, get all videos notified for you, of course, when it shows up. And you can also check out my social media link trees down in this channel's homepage as well, where you can also check out all my other socials there. So with that matter, my name is Duncan Nichols, and I thank you very much for watching today's review.